Hi guys, I'm Annie. Welcome back for another video and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome. If you're already subscribed, welcome back. And if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to like this video and hit the subscribe button so that you receive all notifications for future videos. I would love it so much. And it also helps out the YouTube algorithm to get my videos out in front of more people, which would be so fun. So thank you guys. And now getting into today's video. Today's video, I'm going to be painting this painting inspired by a bouquet that I picked up from a local farmer's market this week. It has tulips, daffodils, and other lovely little spring flowers, and it's very colorful, very vibrant. And feel free to paint alongside me, pause the video as you need it, or watch the video, take in all the information, and paint on after. Before we get into today's video, I wanted to let you know I did compile a little folder, freebie, PDF guide for you to kind of help you along with the painting today. Inside that folder, I have a color reference sheet with color recipes. All the colors that I mentioned throughout the video are included in this little reference sheet, and you can get that in the PDF guide. I will have all the color recipes in the description below, but if you need a little bit more of a visual, that's what this is for. And you can find that in the folder. Another thing I have in that PDF guide is a little line drawing for you. So if drawing is a little difficult for you and you have a hard time and that feels like a little bit of a block before getting into your painting, I've included a drawing of this exact painting. I've included that in the PDF guide that you can get in the link in my description below. And you can copy that onto your paper, or you can use tracing paper to copy that onto your paper, just to kind of make the painting a little bit easier. That way you don't have to worry. If drawing is difficult for you, you don't have to worry about any of that before we get into the painting. So with that being said, I think we covered all our bases, and now we're ready to get into the video. I am going to give you a quick rundown of the supplies that I'm using. So this here is the paper that I use. I use it for all of my painting projects. It is the Acrylic Strathmore 400 series, and it is my go-to. I love it. The pages are nice and thick, perfect for acrylic painting, and like I said, I use it for all of my painting projects that are not done on canvas. And the brushes that I love are Princeton Velvet Touch brushes. My go-to brushes and brushes that I'll be using today are all flat brushes like these here. Specifically, we are using the 3/8 of an inch and a 1/4 inch flat brush, and these are the paints that we're using. So this combination is kind of the combination that I go to. Typically we have titanium white, green gold, pyrrole orange, nickel azo, quinacridone nickel azo gold, ultramarine blue, sap green hue, and magenta. And I did not use the last one there, so disregard that. But these are my paints that we're using today. I'll list them all in the description below, so you don't have to worry about that. These are my water jars. This is my paint palette. It's actually a palette pad, so there's a whole bunch of it's a paper palette pad, so there's a whole bunch here. When you're done, you just rip them off, and then you have another palette paper below that you can use. It makes it really easy for days where you don't have a ton of time. And this is our little spring bouquet that is inspiring our painting today. So fun. Okay, moving into the painting, I have my palette pad all ready to go, and this is our painting that we're going to work towards today. And we're going to start off by painting our tulip leaves. So we're going to take some green gold and some sap green, mix those together, and if it's a little too vibrant, we're going to mute that with some magenta, mix it together till we like the color that we get. Feel free to experiment. You can use whatever combination you want. We're going to use the 1/2 inch flat brush to make our tulip leaves to paint, not make them, to paint them. We're gonna use our 1/2-inch flat brush and just do one little swoop of a brush stroke. Kind of work our way around the composition, just like that. And you're gonna, this here, I added a little bit of white to that color mix and kind of started to add some layers into these tulip leaves, but we'll go back in later to add some more dimension. Next, we're going to paint our tulips. We're gonna go in and make the color mix for the deepest part of our tulip flowers, and we use magenta and Pyrrole orange for that, and a little bit of our Liquitex matte medium. Now we're going to go onto our paper, use the flat side of our brush with those really wide brush strokes, working from top to bottom, blocking in the shapes for our tulips. And again, this does not have to be you. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes all along the way, but this is a really loose part of the painting where a lot of this is going to get covered up. This is just about kind of blocking in where the flower is going to go, and getting in those really dark, vibrant hues of the flowers. And then we're going to turn our painting back around. And next, we're going to start adding in some midtones to bring out definition in the petals, like you can see in this painting here. We're going to work our way from the center of the flower, add some light to that color mix, and I am adding in those midtones, kind of brightening the flower a little bit, starting at the top, using my brush to do most of the work, and just working those brush strokes down towards the bottom of the flower. The key here is to really don't overthink it. Just let your brush do a lot of the work. And I did cover up a little too much of that dark color that we started with, so I just went in and mixed up some more to add some more of that dark shadows into our flowers. I didn't want to cover up all of it, and I covered up just a little bit too much. Moving on to the highlights. Well, we're not quite at the highlights yet, but as you can see, I'm just adding a little bit of titanium white into our original mix for these tulips and kind of working our way from the shadows layer by layer up to the highlights. And we're doing the same thing. We're going to start at the top and work those brush strokes down towards the bottom of the flower to start bringing out the detail and adding some depth to the tulip. And the thing with tulips, when they're tight like this, it's hard to, they tend to fall flat because there's not a lot going on with the flower itself. So in order to make them more fun and interesting, you can add contrast through the values that you're using. So you can use darks to light. So we want to use contrast in our values. So dark shadows, bright highlights. The next part of our painting, we are going to work on these daffodils, which are going to go here and here. The thing about daffodils, white flowers can be a little tricky, but I'll break it down for you. We'll make it real simple today. We're going to start with a yellow for the darkest parts of the daffodils and then work our way up to the white. So we're going to start with nickel azo gold, add some magenta in there and some matte medium and titanium white, and add a little bit more and add the nickel azo gold until you like what you have in your palette. And then we're going to go into our sketch and go in real loose, fill in the white petals with this color mix that we just did. Again, just like with the tulips, this first color is just for the darkest part of the flower. Most of it's going to get covered. There's room for mistakes here. Does not have to be perfect. And I know white flowers can be tricky, so I hope breaking this down for you makes it a little easier for you. So here we are going, and we're going to do the same thing that we did up top there, down on the bottom with the second daffodil. We're going to add some titanium white, and now we are going to work on those mid-tones. And we're going to go over those petals there, and whether you're following along my painting or you're using this as inspiration, or you are using reference photos, or you are painting from life, use this time to really look at your subject, identify the shadows, the midtones, and the highlights, and use that as a guide as you are placing your midtones into your painting. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can just use your reference photos and inspiration as a guide. And it is completely open to your interpretation. And if you add too much of your light colors, you can totally go back in with your shadows if you need to add more contrast, like I'm doing here. I definitely covered up way too much of the shadows, so I just mixed up some more of that color and am going back in here and adding them back in. And you can see the whites of the daffodils are starting to take shape here. Now we are just about finished with the white petals of our daffodils, and next we're gonna go in and work on the center of the daffodils, which are a bell shape in that really pretty peachy pink. So we're going to use Pyrrole orange and green gold. You want to use mostly Pyrrole orange, just a touch of green gold, and that's going to tone down the brightness of that orange, the green and the orange. It'll tone it down, and we're going to use a touch of magenta with a lot of white, and always that Liquitex matte medium. And we're going to go in and block out that bell shape for the center of our daffodil there. Just be loose about it. It doesn't have to be anything perfect. We just basically want to fill in our sketched area that we have for the center of our daffodil. We're going to add some titanium white and some green gold as we lighten this color. And we're going to start at the top of the bell shape here, and then work our way down towards the center with just simple, easy brush strokes. You don't have to overwork it. These simple brush strokes are going to be what brings dimension to the center of our daffodil there. Again, we're going to do the same thing up top there. Simple, one swoop, super easy. And they're already starting to take shape, which is so fun. I'm going to speed this up here as I go in and add some more details, and I just continue to lighten that mix up, that color, and work out some of the details. And again, just continuing to lighten the mix up. I'm going to speed this up here. I don't actually paint that fast, but I'm going to speed it up and add in some more of the highlights here and just really kind of finish up the daffodils here. And this mix at this point is mostly white. So you can see as we're adding all that white over the flower, the shadows are starting to peek through, and that is what gives the flower dimension. And I always add these colors kind of throughout the painting in any way that I can. And adding these colors, so I added that peachy pink into the tulips, and that helps bring the composition together. Next part of our painting here is the yellow flowers. We use Pyrrole orange, green gold, and again, you know the drill, just like we did before. When we're starting a flower, we're going to start with the darkest color, the shadows, the deepest parts of the flower, and we're just going to use that to block in where we want the flower to go. And do the same thing on the bottom here for that second yellow flower. And then just like before, we're gonna lighten it up with some white. And you did see there I added some blue, some ultramarine blue in with that lighter mix to tone down that yellow there. Because if you are feeling like it's too bright, you can tone it down with some blue. So added some blue and some white, and we're gonna go in now and start bringing out the details of the petals. And just like with the tulips, we're gonna start at the top there, go down with one little brush stroke, and that is gonna define the smaller petals of these yellow flowers here. Real simple, real quick, don't overthink it, just go fast. Then we're gonna go up top there, and these are just the midtones. And then we're gonna do the same thing with the second flower, and I'll speed it up for you. And again, I brought this color into the daffodils a little bit, just to tie the painting together. Now we're gonna start going in with a much lighter mix. I added a lot of white to our mix there, and I'm gonna go over my brush strokes just a little bit to kind of begin to bring out the highlights of the petals here. And at this point, this is the fun part because this is where you start to see the flowers really taking shape, and it adds a lot of depth and dimension to your painting. And we're gonna do the same thing to the second flower there, and I'll speed it up for you. And this is where we're at. I think it's coming together really nicely. Here's an up close look of everything we've worked on so far. And if yours doesn't look like mine, that is totally fine. You can just use this as a guide. Next thing we're gonna work on are these little purple flowers. They're really more so for filler. So there are different parts in our composition on our painting that are looking little empty. So we're gonna use these purple flowers to fill it in. So I used magenta with a little bit of ultramarine blue. And you can use some green gold here if you want to tone that down a little bit. But if you don't, that's okay too. You don't have to use the green gold, but the green gold will kind of tone it down a little bit and warm up that purple. And this is going to be our darkest shade of those little purple flowers. Feel free to experiment in any way that you want. You don't have to do the exact mixes that I'm doing. These are just a jumping off point for you. So now we're gonna go into the painting, and these flowers are really simple. We're gonna go one petal at a time, and we're gonna start at the bottom corner here and kind of just take it one brush stroke at a time until they make a little flower. And we're gonna do that for each flower. And then at the end, they're gonna look like one big bunch of flowers. And I just wanted to show you there, I'm using the flat tip of the brush. Oh, and for this part here, I'm using our smaller angled brush. I'm not using the 1/2 inch, I'm using the 3/8 inch angled flat brush. This is one of my favorite brushes. I feel like it's very versatile, where you can get in really small spaces, but it can also cover, because it's a wide flat brush, it covers wider spaces as well. So now I'm just gonna speed this up here, and I'm gonna work around my composition and fill in different spaces with these little flowers to kind of add some, to kind of balance out the composition. And then just like with the other flowers, we're gonna start with our darkest and work our way up to the highlights. So I'm gonna go in here just with the tips of the flowers and add that lighter mix to start with the midtones, and then work my way through each flower one brush stroke at a time. And as I was lightening this purple, I did add some green gold as I was adding white to brighten the color. And I'll speed it up for you so you don't have to sit and watch the whole thing, but I am just going through the rest of the flower bunches there and adding in the highlights, playing with some of the midtones, all that. The next part we're going to move on to here is the little stems and leaves for these little flower bunches. So we're going to take green gold and sap green, mix that together, add a little matte medium, and we're going to use the very edge of our brush, and we're going to use that edge of the brush to make our fine lines for the stems of these little flower bunches. That's what I mean when I say this brush is super versatile, because you can get those really fine lines and you can also get really wide brush strokes, which I love. Looking at our painting here, we are now going to work on those little leaves that you see in the middle of those flower bunches. So we're going to use the same brush, go into our green there. Looks like we need some more. Again, just a simple brush stroke for the leaves. I'm just going to work our way around these flower bunches to add those leaves in. You can add them in wherever you feel like it. They need no rhyme or reason. Just add them in as you wish. And I also added some of that green in the shadow areas of my daffodils. So you can do that too if you want. You don't have to though. Going in with some highlights for those leaves to make them more fun. And the next thing we are going to move on to are those little yellow flowers that are kind of filling out the rest of our painting. So we are going to do some green gold and magenta, mix that up, and same brush. Actually, now we're using a 1/2 inch brush. You can use either one though, whatever you prefer. I use this one just because it was a little bit bigger and I wanted to make the leaves a little bit bigger. So we're using our 1/2 inch brush to fill in just in those areas that needed a little help. Kind of worked my way around the painting and added them in as I wanted to. And now we are almost done. So I added this is the part of the painting where I'm just going to add in some final details where I feel like it needs a little refining. I added some of that peachy pink into the yellow flowers there to add some variety in the midtones. And I just kind of look at the painting, step back, and see if it needs any touching up. And now we're going to get into the background. So I decided on a really light peachy pink, very pretty spring pink for the background. And I used Pyrrole orange, titanium white, and a little bit of green gold to make this color for the background. And you can paint the background before you start painting, or you can do it after. They give you slightly different looks, but it's your preference, whatever you want to do. Sometimes I do it before, sometimes I do it after. But I'm using the 1/2 inch flat brush for the background. Really versatile. I love this one too because you can get into those little small spaces of the painting there and also get those wide areas as well. And I love it. So here we are. We are just about finished with the painting, and I think it turned out so fun, and I hope you enjoyed painting this one today. But this is the part where I am just going in and really refining with little itty bitty last minute tweaks before I finish things up. And I think we're just about finished. Now I'm done, and this is the final painting. What do we think? I think it turned out really sweet. And I love the bouquet that it was inspired by. And I love that, you know, you can see it's not a direct copy of the bouquet, but it was inspired by the bouquet, which I think is really fun. So it was really fun to give you a little peek into my process and my creative brain space as I work through a painting. You know, you can have a bouquet right in front of you and think that you have to copy it right as it is, but can be used as a jumping off point, which I think is so fun, because when you look at inspiration that way, it truly is everywhere, and everyone's going to interpret the inspiration in their own way. And so with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you have any questions, be sure to leave them below and I will do my best to answer them. Thank you guys.